Frank Lloyd Wright, The Natural House, written in 1954. First chapter, Organic Architecture. The typical American dwelling of 1893 was crowding in upon itself all over the Chicago prairies, as I used to go home from my work with Adler and Sullivan in Chicago to Oak Park, a Chicago suburb. That dwelling had somehow become typical American architecture, but by any faith in nature, implicit or explicit, it did not belong anywhere. I was in my 6th year with Adler and Sullivan then, and they had completed the Wainwright building in St. Louis, the first expression of the skyscraper as a tall building. But after building the great auditorium, the firm did not build residences because they got in the way of larger, more important work. I had taken over dwellings, Mr. Sullivan's own house among them, whenever a client came to them for a house. The Charnley house was done in this way. I longed for a chance to build a sensible house, and in 1893, soon free to build one. I furnished an office in the Schiller building and began my own practice of architecture. The first real chance came by way of Herman Winslow for client. I was not the only one then sick of hypocrisy and hungry for reality of integrity. Winslow was something of an artist himself, sick of it all. Wright goes on to talk about the common vulgarity that he witnessed in builders and country folk growing up and working. And he also talks about vulgarity in modern terms as well as the revival styles, with joinery, and his other chapters or sub-chapters being simplicity, plasticity, and in the nature of materials for this new house of philosophy, a new reality, including glass, another reality, continuity, materials for their own sake, the new integrity, integral ornament, great power, the Usonian House 1 and 2, Gravity Heat, and Book 2, which is written in 1954, the other ones having been written earlier in 1936 up to 1953. In Book 2, Wright talks about integrity in a house as an individual from the ground up, where to build, what kind of land, and a suitable foundation, so site considerations for architecture. Advantages of the berm type, so how to build into the ground as part of the landscape, how to light the house, steel, the basement, insulation, roof, attic, kitchen, sizes, expanding for a growing family, children, furnishings, paint, air conditioning, the contractor, grammar, the house as a work of art, the architect of the future, valiant simplicity, Usonian automatic, reducing costs, organic architecture and the Orient, or Asian architecture, according to Frank Lloyd Wright, and philosophy and deed. Frank Lloyd Wright, The Living City, 1958. Chapter 1, Nature. Earth. The value of Earth as man's heritage, or of man as Earth's heritage, great heritage, is gone far from him now in any big city centralization built. Centralization without plan has overbuilt. Urban happiness of the properly citified citizen consists in crowding, confusion, lured by the hypnotic warmth, pressure, and approbation of the crowd. The screech and mechanical uproar of the big city turns in the citified head, fills citified ears as the song of birds, wind in the trees, animal cries, or as the voices and songs of loved ones once filled his heart. He is sidewalk happy, on a sidewalk to nowhere. But where and as he now stands, out of the machine that his big city of the motor age has become, no citizen creates or operates more than mere machinery, nor is he going to be much more than a machine himself, if his big city stays. Thus, the properly citified citizen becomes a broker of profit system ideas, a vendor of gadgetry, a salesman dealing for profit in human exaggeration, a speculator in frailties, continually dealing in the ideas and inventions of others, or become an avid spectator. This puller of levers, pusher of buttons of vicarious power, has power of his own only by way of mechanical craft. A graft is this tide on which he rides. And skipping ahead. So this modern monster, degeneration of the Renaissance city, becomes the form universal of anxiety, all stated in various form of rent. The citizen's very life is tenant, himself rented in a rented world. He and his ever-growing family evicted if in areas or vast debt system of rent goes to smash. Should his nervous pace slacken, his digestion become ulcerous or fail, his anxious lockstep with rent would fall out of lockstep of production. Landlord, money lord, machine lord, the man with ulcers or none, is soon a total loss, even to his bureaucratic government. So to summarize part 1, he talks about Earth, the shadow of the wall, primitive instincts still alive, and in democracy, gospel of individuality. Frank Lloyd Wright says, only human values are life-giving values. No organic values are ever life-taking. When man builds natural buildings naturally, he builds his very life into them, inspired by intrinsic nature. In this interior sense, we are here calling organic. So he goes on to say, what then is in the nature of this idea that we call organic? We are here calling this architecture the architecture of democracy, because it is intrinsically based on nature law. Law for man, not law over man. And he concludes, this our integrity needs old wisdom, yet new to our present servile, provincial, and amazing civilization. Infinite possibilities exist to make of the city a place for suitable, free men in which freedom can thrive and the soul of man grow. A city of cities that democracy could approve and so desperately needs. Will this soon be demanded? Yes. And in that vision of decentralization and reintegration lies our natural 20th century dawn. Of such is the nature of democracy. Free men may honestly call the new freedom. Where and whenever this is understood, the part is to the whole no less important than the whole to the part. This true entity is alone able to live as organic architecture or as culture, the soul of any civilization. Frank Lloyd Wright's other chapters are Part 2, Illusion, Social and Economic Disease, Makeshift Rent Artifacts, An Experiment, The Culture Lag, Individual, Law of Change, Illusion, Light of Day, Forces, Tearing the Vortex Down, Looking Backward, Freedom or Conscription. Part 3, Decentralization, Integration on the New Scale of Spacing, Broadacres, Analysis, Democracy, Land and Money, Organic Architecture, Action, Feudal, Architecture, City, Usonia, Values, and Recapitulation. Part 4, Usonian, Legacy, Individuality, Architecture, Acreage, Landscape, Usonian, Miseducation, To Begin, Change Will Take Effect, Organic, Usonian, Acreage, Teenagers, Risks, Calculations, Usonian Farmer, Integration of the Family, The Great Mouth, Business, Industrialization, The Factory, Offices, Professionals, Banking, Markets, Realtors, Apartments, Motels, Community Centers, Theaters, Light, Churches, Hospitals, Education and Culture, Universities, Schools, Design, Center. Part 5, The Present, Usonian, Pioneer, Nature, To Have and to Hold, Latter-day Civilization, Democracy in Overalls, Awakened Citizen, Romance, Architecture, Discipline, Where There Is No Vision, People Perish, The Wage Slave, Night is But a Shadow Cast by the Sun. All really good titles for songs in albums.